Boy, can I help you?
Listen up. I'm bringing you the best content to ever exist in the door-to-door industry, from sales, leadership, recruiting, and personal development.
Why would I need that?
Because never before have we been able to collaborate with the top experts in their industries, sharing their secrets and techniques on what makes them the best.
Wait, who are you?
I'm your host, Sam Taggart, creator of the D2D Experts and D2D Con. Is there a place we can sit down?
Well, come on in.
Register today for D2D Con, January 10th through 12th. Learn from over 40 amazing speakers, including the real Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort. Come as a team, learn as a team, leave as a tribe.
All right, everybody, this is Sam Taggart, your host with the D2D podcast, and we are here live on Facebook Live and with an awesome guest today. Really interesting topic. His name is Jason Harris, and he has an extensive background in financial planning. But then he's like, you know what? I got more passionate about real estate that he decides to say, hey, I'm kind of a way to do financial planning and real estate. And he's like kind of conflicted of like putting my money in the market / real estate. And he decides to just put 2 feet in. And now he owns 75 doors, about to be 77. He's 33. You said?
33. Yep.
And has just become obsessed at building this portfolio. I guess what's your goal?
Been obsessed for a while, but
yeah, I was gonna say like
still obsessed.
I was gonna say you're still moving, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Just was recently hosted on Bigger Pockets, right?
Yes,
so it's probably one of the most well-known real estate podcasts.
Yeah, I think it is
right?
the most well-known. Yeah.
Who runs that?
Brandon Turner, David Green.
Cool. So I just listened to it yesterday. I thought it was
Okay.
phenomenal. So
Thank you.
hopefully, if you want to hear another podcast that's really good, go listen to, how do they find it?
Podcast 288 on Bigger Podcast.
288. Okay. And
Bigger
then
Pockets.
how do they find you if they wanted to ever get to know you?
Creative Gains LLC is our website.
Creative Gains?
Creative Gains LLC at gmail.com is our email.
Cool. So Jason is a speaker at Door to Door Con, one of the vendors, and he helps, our industry. You've helped a lot of sales guys and business entrepreneurs that make good money put it in the right place, right? Which
Right.
I think is an interesting topic that I'm excited to jam on because, a lot of times we make good money and put it in the wrong place. And, we look back 3 years ago and we go, oh man, had I done this differently, I wouldn't be here. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think if you're listening to this, this is the podcast for you. If you are trying to figure out what do you do with your money that you made, your back end, what do you do with how do you budget? How do you plan for the right financial plan, short term, long term? Where I think a lot of people, they just make money, they spend it, and then they fast forward 6 years and they're doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you've seen that.
And sometimes it's a good, better, best. It's not necessarily they did something wrong. There just may be a better way out there that they're not aware of.
Yeah. And it's sad because it's just a lack of education, a lack of leadership. It's not like everybody's parents come from millions of dollars and all of a sudden they fall into good money and it's exciting to spend it. And
Sure. Yeah, of course.
We've
Work
all-
hard for it.
yeah, we've all been there. If you drive a big truck, comment #big truck. Anyway, so we're going to dive into, let me fix this again. I don't know why I keep bumping this. Okay, we good. So tell me a little bit about your story. Like what made you get into real estate in a nutshell? Like why buy real estate?
Well, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad like every other teenager and anyone else, but came up to school at BYU, met my wife there, and her family owned a little bit in real estate, and I was doing all stock investing at the time and actually making pretty good returns. But 10% on $10,000 at the end of the year is still $1,000 and nothing real exciting. I mean, that was great for me, but had an opportunity to possibly get in on a fourplex with my in-laws and took them out to dinner, made it real formal, told them I'd do all the sweat equity. And
Use their money kind of thing.
well, yeah, I was going to put my money that I had, which was maybe 18 or 19,000 at the time. They were kind enough to play along. But I found out, because I had a part-time job and had done pretty well in sales myself, that I was able to qualify on my own with an FHA loan. And so once I understood that I had just enough to buy my own fourplex, yeah, we were sold doing it ourselves. And
Yeah, you owning it.
yeah, absolutely. And so at the time, and now I think when you put a down payment on a fourplex, the 3 units of rent income have to cover all of your mortgage. And so we went from renting to now having our rent paid for. And I was already an investor trying to save as much as I could. That allowed me to save a lot more, and it just snowballed from there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, real exciting.
So I want to hear one of the craziest maybe rental. I mean, we all hear rentals or headaches, and you know what I mean? It's like, oh, do you really want to be a landlord? I'm sure over 75 units and years of this, hey, do you have any crazy stories that are like...
Oh, there's terrible headaches.
Yeah,
in
I was going to say,
landlording.
I was like, I'm sure you have a manager now, but I mean...
Absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
any crazy ones that you're like, oh, this is...
We self-managed. Oh, you know what's funny? I was on a trip just 2 weeks ago and got a phone call. This isn't funny. I don't know if I should share this, but yeah, we had a new tenant who moved in who she was getting home from work, and someone came and dropped her skirt. And so you get weird things that happen.
Just pantsed her?
Yes, pantsed her, and she's been afraid now, and so we've put up lights in the parking lot. Not a fun story,
Yeah,
I guess,
but it's
with
just
landlording,
weird.
but
You're like,
weird,
what do you
random
want
things.
me to do about
Yeah, like
that?
what do I do as a landlord? Obviously, we felt bad. We notified the police. We put lights up so at nighttime, there's a little bit more light, and you just get weird stories.
Yeah.
You get the terrible ones where tenants trash the place and you have to remodel and renovate, and it's real costly. And
I had one where it was like blood on the walls and like
Oh, wow.
holes. Like I was like, what do they do in here? Like animal sacrifices? Like what is this? And
oh
there's-
wow, haven't had blood
it-
before.
Dude, it was wild. I was like, this is weird. Like how do they live like this? Anyway, I haven't had many problems, but like that was just the weird one that I've had.
Sure,
But
sure.
I'm sure you've had plenty of that. I'm like, you have a lot of people that rent. I'm sure you're gonna get the weird ones. And
Yeah, we've had gunshots and some other weird things. Nothing that anyone got hurt, but
that's funny. So and I asked that question because everybody's always like, do you really want to be a landlord? And I'm like, hell yes I do. Like I don't necessarily want to manage it, but I want to be the guy that's collecting the checks every month.
Absolutely,
Right?
absolutely.
So it's kind of debunking this whole theory of like, and what I want to talk about is why are people scared to be the homeowners? Why is it that everybody talks about real estate and is like, yeah, I want to be an investor. I want to get into real estate one day, but nobody does it.
well, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And it's a little scary to take on when you haven't done it before. I had my in-laws who had a little experience, so being 24, getting started, is a little scary because I didn't know how to fix things. And I'd recommend others to not fix things. If you're anything like me, you'll run to Home Depot 5 times trying to get the right part, do it incorrectly, create a bigger problem for the plumber or electrician that you then finally need to call.
My wife won't let me hang a picture. Like she was literally like, do we need to call our guy? I'm like, Katie, I'm putting a nail in a stud. Like, it was so funny.
My kids run up to me and say, Daddy, something's broke. Call Grandpa.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they
It's
know
called-
Dad's not going to fix it.
Exactly. That's how it is with me. Sorry, go ahead. That was funny.
So what I like to tell people as a financial planner, that the National Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that 38% of our income in America goes towards our primary residence. And that could mean your mortgage, it could mean your utilities and repairs and all of that. Starting in real estate with an investment property like we did allowed us to significantly reduce that percentage
Yeah,
of
that
our
makes
income
sense.
that we had to put towards that category. And furthermore, why so many love real estate is because of the tax benefits that it also provides. And so once I started to learn everything that I could deduct, the lawnmower and the plumber and the electrician and everything else, the storage shed that I bought to put everything in, everything became a write-off. My cell phone and the car and the miles that I traveled. But furthermore, then depreciation that you can use. And that's the one that's the king of all tax deductions because you don't have to spend any of your money to actually get a benefit for it. And so between tax benefits and reducing my primary residence expenses, my disposable income became greater and greater, which allowed me to either invest in more or have a better lifestyle. I chose to sacrifice in the beginning for a better tomorrow. That was always part of my plan. And so we took a lot of those savings and bought more real estate and continued to compound from there, which is what helped us to grow to such a large number at an early age.
I love that. And
Yeah.
I think, okay, key point he said, people, is he chose to, hey, Preston, you're watching this. This is a good one for you. I actually asked him the question about, can you be a homeowner but not a homeowner? So keep watching. We'll get to that. He was the one that asked me. So
okay,
I figure
sure.
I'm like, he's on here. Anyway, but I think a lot of people get in the mindset of, oh, it's only lasting today, might as well spend it, instead of like having the discipline to say, let's save for today for a better tomorrow. And now it's kind of like, if you didn't want to work, you probably didn't have to, with, the amount of equity that you have. And if you needed to fire or sell a house, it's like, great, I can pull equity, or whatever. Like you're in a
Absolutely.
position where you are essentially set, but it's probably not stopping here, I'm assuming, right?
No, let your assets buy your lifestyle.
Yes.
If you could put your money to work for you and let that money then provide you with the lifestyle you're wanting, that's such a smarter way to go. You'll get tax benefits for doing, and we live a pretty nice lifestyle now, but it's still a relatively small percentage of our total income because we have earned income, passive income, and portfolio income due to the way that we've put our money to work for us. And
I love
so I actually had an example when I was at BYU going to school. I had a roommate going to buy a new car. I went with him, test drove this Pontiac Solstice, and just loved it. Wanted to get a sports car. I had enough to buy it in cash. That ended up being my down payment for a fourplex, but just a few months before, almost bought that car. And I look back now and think, had I made that decision to buy the car instead of keeping the money and then using it to buy a fourplex, my life right now would be a completely different story.
Dude, it's so funny that you say that story. I had almost the exact same thing where, I was taught like, oh, you need a nice car to recruit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, do you really need a nice car to recruit? Well, it's status, man. People want to work for those that look like they have a lot of money. And I was like, so I was in this position where I had an extra 50 grand I wanted to put somewhere. So they're like, go get a nicer car than what you have. And I was like, I'm fine driving a Kia. Like, it's cool. It's got the Bluetooth, like, what I mean? I was like, it gets me to A to B. Like, I was like, can I take the 50 grand and put it somewhere else in real estate? And then, that turned into 150 grand
Absolutely.
4 years later. And I was like, yeah, thank you. Like that was probably smart of myself.
Yeah, I can totally relate. I was a financial advisor driving a 1998 Honda Civic that was paid off, living in a residential duplex that I owned.
Advising these millionaires' dollars' money.
How to do their money. I knew what my personal financial statement looked like and how well it was growing.
But
the lifestyle and what it looked like I was doing was a hard sell, obviously, to trust me with their millions. And anyhow.
Yeah. And it's funny, like looking in retrospect, where would you rather put your money? See what I mean? It's kind of like perception of like, well, I want to go with the guy that's successful because obviously he's successful. But it's like in retrospect, it's like, no, I'd rather put my money with the guy that's driving the 98. You know what I mean? That is smart, owns 75 units versus trying to buy his like status.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I think that happens in our industry so often is like guys have this financial perspective versus financial reality.
Sure.
And I'm like, dude, who cares? What financial reality is what really matters at the end of the day, because freedom, stress-free relationship problem. I mean, I think of it like your health in that aspect is more critical than your perception that people have. So
Right.
I'm glad you said that. Like that.
And it grows from there, and it gets better and better.
So let's say I'm first year rep or manager. I just made an extra money. I want to get into real estate. How do I overcome that whole fear of like, I don't know where to start. Like, I don't, I guess it's like, what do I do? What's my steps?
Really good question. So obviously you could put your money in the stock market. You could put it in a Roth IRA, which I'd recommend over a traditional, and don't want to go into the details of why you do that now. But I would recommend, if you're renting, that your first priority be own where you live instead of rent and pay the landlord. And that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a multifamily unit, although that's what I would highly recommend. It can be a legal accessory apartment, single family home, or it could just be a condo townhouse that you rent out to your roommates if you're single. If you're married, then yeah, rent out your basement or whatever you can. Do something to derive an income from your property and let that income offset that primary residence expense that so many Americans allot most of their income to.
Yeah.
Because by doing that, you give more disposable income back to you to do more things. And so I would recommend talking with a CPA and a loan officer who understands your plan of what you're trying to do long term. Because more often than not, Sam, I sit down with sales guys that are doing really well, but because of the CPA's aggressive tax shelter that they're trying to implement for them, which they don't recognize as possibly hurting them, they just want to help. They can't qualify to buy a home, or they can't qualify to buy an investment property, or sometimes even to buy a car. And so I have $200,000 or $500,000 income clients
You can't get qualified.
who can't even buy a home or can't even buy a car. So they're renting for $4,000 a month and leasing out two really nice cars, but they're never owning anything. And so they're not getting any equity or appreciation. And that's what's long term's been the biggest benefit to our wealth strategy, is owning what you have. And to be honest, once you own real estate, you can use depreciation and other better tax deductions to shelter your income. So don't let the short term get in the way of what could be and what's a lot better. Talk to someone who understands what your long term plan is, and that'll make all the difference.
I think it's also like having a plan. And it's so funny, like when you start making money, everyone wants a piece of that money, right? And I think it's interesting, just our conversation. So if you're watching this and you're a financial planner, what's up, Brian? It's hard because I've met with so many, and I'm not gonna say names, but finance companies that want to sell you a product, right? And anytime you meet with a finance person, it's like they have their agenda because they have their commissions they're going to make, whether it's make money on a mutual fund and they make money on what else, an insurance policy, or they make money on an X, and even real estate people. I think I had a real estate guy. I was like, I'm going to be blunt with you. I'm not going to be exclusive with you right now because I don't trust you. Send me over a good deal and I'll buy it from you. Well, he sends me a deal every day. I was like, these aren't good deals. Like, I know how to tell you between a good deal and a bad deal, so stop sending me the bad deals. Like,
Right.
I would care if you sent me one deal over a 3-month period. I'd be happier with that than one every day that sucks.
Right.
And so I found that everybody has an agenda because they want to make money, right? So what I think has been so interesting about just getting to know you and your strategy and your business and how you run things is it's like being and working for one of the big financial planning companies. Well, it's not in your best interest to tell people to get into real estate because you don't make a commission on the financial planning product that you sell them, right?
Correct.
So I think what's so cool is the genuine help that you want to deliver to our audience and D2D and people that make money. Is it's like, it might be the mutual fund, the Roth, the insurance, but don't forget the real estate, like the wealth that you can create here. But let's come up with the right strategy with your accountant and with your, you know what I mean? Like you were saying, is it's like, if you don't talk to the accountant before talking to real estate, you know what I mean? You just screwed yourself because now you can't even qualify, like you were saying. And I think a lot of sales guys don't know that juggle, and they just go to one and then they screw themselves on the other.
Absolutely.
Because they're like, oh, freak, like I didn't realize that.
You need a team of advisors to understand what's most important to you, because then they can work together, because what's best for you in asset protection with your attorney isn't what's going to be best for your CPA when doing your taxes, and isn't what's best for you when you meet with your loan officer. Because I started out, my attorney told me to get an individual LLC on each property I owned. Well, after 10 or 20 LLCs,
that gets expensive and annoying.
I am paying over $10,000 a year just to file taxes for my K1s on my LLC. I will lose more money in paying my tax guy than I will ever getting sued in the end, with that type of strategy. And so I learned and realized, okay, I need to help them understand this is what my long-term plan is. And with that, then I've been able to make adjustments so that my underwriter and loan officer can understand why my CPA does something a certain way. In fact, that's a tip that I'd recommend to anyone. Before you file your taxes, send it over to your underwriter or loan officer who you want to do a loan with. Make sure that you're loan eligible. Then send it back to your CPA who can make those adjustments necessary before you file. That's how I've been able to every year make sure that when I find a good deal or a good property, I'm going to be in a position to be able to get a yes from my loan officer.
And you said something kind of off camera that I want to point out, and especially right now is the time to pay attention. So if you're watching this and you like real estate and you're like, next year I want to buy a property, well, it's the end of the year. You got to show income in 2018 so that 2019 you can buy a property.
Correct.
And so if you're not W-2ing yourself, or if you're not on an S Corp and an LLC and you're not showing the right wage,
Correct.
Now is the time. You can still write a big check in December saying, I made X in December. There you go.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
absolutely.
So now is something to start to pay attention to if you're not. But to go back along what you're saying is, I think I had another important point, and it's bugging me now that I can't think of it, the loan thing. Having the loan conversation prior to talking to your real estate, you know what I mean? Like if those two don't talk, you're screwed.
Yeah. You have to have everyone on the same page, I think, to make it work. And with what you were saying there, it's great to get in front of your CPA right now. They're not thinking 100% come February, March, and April when they're trying to cram in everyone's tax returns. I would recommend planning with someone before year end where your CPA is more available, and talk to them about what your goals are long term. If you're trying to buy something next year, your CPA needs to know that, because he or she may choose not to do something that they otherwise would have that could compromise you from being able to actually make that goal happen.
Another piece, it came to me. So here's the part where you said off camera, and I never looked at it this way. You said, tell me about the whole strategy of like, yeah, I'm going to pay myself a less wage to save on taxes now, but how is that realistically not, it's saving now, but costing you so much more money long term. And it was interesting, your philosophy on how it's more expensive to do that.
Yeah. Let me give you my example.
Yeah.
So my fourplex I purchased was for $434,000 back in 2010, a little bit different time. But since the last 20 years, the Utah market has averaged a 4.2% appreciation rate on average. Last year was much higher than that, but that's been the long-term average. 4.2% on $434,000. That's like $17,000 or $18,000 just in appreciation in year one, right? And then there's principal reduction that you get off paying off your loan. Then there's the potential cash flow that I was saving by living there. All of that money that I made in year one, and that's not including prorated rents, security deposits that I got at the closing table.
Depreciation of asset.
Depreciation on my tax return.
Interest write-off.
So we're talking about tens of thousands, $30,000, $40,000 just in year one that I made. Had I not done my planning properly the year before and sheltered just a little more income to get an additional $1,000 of tax savings, I would have lost $1,000. I would have gained $1,000 only to lose $40,000 the next year. It's my opinion that we need to be in a position to be able to buy real estate, because the real estate has so much better tax benefits than
trying to just shelter and show
the other
less
strategies
income
that you're using. Because why that is, when you meet with an underwriter and they're analyzing your income, they see certain deductions that you're taking that you truly spent money on in order to get the benefit for.
Yep.
But with real estate, depreciation is something you literally don't have to spend any money to get. So depreciation you can use to shelter your income, pay less in tax. But when you get a loan, because you didn't actually have to pay money to get that depreciation, they add that back to your income when qualifying you from a debt to income perspective. And so you can have a significant income and still pay a low amount in tax, but real estate is one of those best strategies in order to do so. And furthermore, Sam, just because you got me on it, and I love talking about this.
But it just blew my mind. Like, I'm like, oh, well, shoot, why wouldn't I just take I'm going to pay more in taxes, but then I'm going to assume I'm going to get real estate. Continue to get real estate.
And this happened a little bit by accident, but as we accumulated more and more properties and continued to repeat that process, we were building up more and more depreciation benefit that we could get from each property. Eventually, that depreciation could shelter a lot of my other income sources. So it allowed me to take my cash flow from my properties or my earned income from my job, either way, and invest it in my Roth IRAs. I still believe in diversification. I still think stocks are a great investment, but I love real estate for what it can do, and I respect what stocks can do as well, and I want to use the both of them together to get me into a better position long term. And so I'm able to forgo the tax benefit today by doing a traditional contribution because I get my tax shelter through depreciation. And so I'm building up my Roth accounts, which, by the way, helps me get more real estate because the lenders want to see you have more reserves the more properties you have financed. And so I'm building up this big reserve account tax-free while also helping me get more and more real estate. It's awesome.
It's guys, having some people like this in your corner makes a difference because what I have, yes, he's such spot on advice. I mean, Chandler, he's speaking on real estate. He's going to be at the DD he did pest control. I think he's up to 30 doors or something like
awesome.
that. Pest control dude, you know.
Awesome.
Props, boys.
Yeah.
Hashtag
Very
real
good.
estate, baby. But no, but I think it's so interesting. I had never looked at it that way, but I look at it like I backtrack some of the benefits and the tax savings and shelters that my rentals have done for me. And I'm like, oh, I didn't do it for that. I just wanted to make 20 grand a month by the time I was 40. You know what I mean? I just wanted to have freedom. I wanted to have true residual that was mine.
Absolutely.
And now I look at it, I'm like, oh, I was brilliant on accident. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
and what you said about the Roth, okay, guys, if you make a lot of money like Chandler or some of these guys or Fry, you know, Mitch, he's a stud. Like, I didn't qualify to put money into a Roth. And what you told me off camera, I was like, wait, I could have put money into a Roth? My financial person was like, well, you make too much money to put money into a Roth. You can only put it into a 401k. And I was like, and some of you guys that are listening to this, you're like, what's the difference? I mean, this is a little high level. I'm sorry if it's too high level, but start reading. Come and we maybe give you the basic next time. But tell us about how that's a scam. I mean, you still can put money into a Roth and grow it tax-free, even if you make $1 million or whatever.
Yeah. Probably the easiest way to find out is just Google backdoor Roth IRA.
Backdoor, Harry. Secrets.
Or
Ready?
hit me up. I can help you too.
I was going to say, that's what Jason's for.
But once you make over a certain income level, it's no longer deductible. And so what you can do is a non-deductible contribution to an IRA. And then I think it's Form 5408 you use to convert it back to a Roth. Because if you don't do that, that money stays in that IRA and grows tax deferred, or you'll pay taxes on it still.
Yeah, it's like, is it better to just pay taxes on that money now instead of let it sit there and have to pay taxes on
All the
5
growth.
times the money
Absolutely.
over 30 years when you take it out?
Or put it in the Roth and let it grow tax-free forever.
Exactly. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Get your money in the damn Roth, but do it through a back door. And I'm like, because I've been so frustrated because like, I know I'm going to get taxed out the wazoo and I take all this money out.
Absolutely.
And then you were talking about how you use the money in the Roth pre-59.5 to go do real estate.
Absolutely.
So tell us that strategy.
So yeah, I found
this is secret upon secret. So if you're watching this is good stuff. This is the nuggets. Hold on, I got to reset this. Don't get into it. Pause 2 seconds. If you're watching, share this because this is stuff that most people don't tell you. Why? Because they want to keep making money off you, or they don't want to somehow, I don't know. It's just, this is the stuff they don't tell you. So this is like real estate genius guru advice. Excited for Door-to-Door Con, obviously, to get deeper into this, but this is a good podcast. Keep going.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. What was the question?
So Roth, how do I take my money that I'm sheltering in this Roth, growing tax-free, reuse it for real estate?
Absolutely. So yeah, just to clear it up, this isn't normal advice by a financial advisor, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's a freaking works for the big financial advisor groups, but is teaching us this stuff. That's why I'm like...
So you can access your Roth IRA, not that you want to jeopardize your future and your retirement, but because it's a post-tax contribution, if you've built up money in a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k, whatever it may be, you've already paid taxes on that money. And so it's accessible, tax-free and penalty-free for any purpose. And so my wife and I, being married, we each had our own Roth IRAs that we were building up. Well, we found a duplex that was a great opportunity. It was it's interesting when real estate, it's an inefficient market. There's no true value of a property. With stocks, you know exactly every day how much Apple's shares are worth, and I can't sell them to you for more than what it's actually worth, right?
Yeah.
But with real estate, I found a deal that was significantly undervalued from what I knew it was worth. And so it was worth it to me to take out my contributions to my Roth to use as a down payment for the duplex that had immediate equity in the property and immediate cash flow, plus value add opportunity. We bought it for like $271, put $15,000 into it, and shortly after it appraised for $345. And that was partly because we bought it well and because we made some improvements. That property's worth $450 now, and it cash flows
Did you guys do that
$1,500
math?
a month.
Wait, guys, did you do the math? Like, hurry, calculate what he just said. That rewind. Okay, that's a lot of money shortly after very minimal contribution.
And what type of stock would you have to be in to get that type of
Yeah,
return?
exactly. This is Bitcoin in December.
Yeah.
Yet it didn't just like disappear.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the leverage component that real estate gives you that stocks.
Yeah, you're
you
playing
just
with
can't
the
have.
bank's money and 30-year money you'll never see the end of the year to create wealth that was just on a multiple that stock's never going to
Absolutely.
do.
Right.
Okay, so I know we're running out of time, so I'm like eating this up, by the way. So I'm like, shoot, I could go on for another 5 hours, but excited to have you at Door to Orcon. You're gonna have a
Thank you.
booth, and
We're really excited.
This will be cool. He's got a workshop. Make sure to go to his workshop. We're gonna be talking on more fun tips on how to get into real estate, investing, and finance. And I mean, it's something that so many of us spend so little time taking studying it and mastering it, when it's like that's like the future of our lives. I mean, it's like instead of living a W-2 paycheck to paycheck life, we're in a position, those listening hopefully are in a position to set ourselves up for life.
Absolutely.
Like very rarely can you have that, say, when you work as a 9 to 5 customer service rep. You know what I mean? Like, it's just no offense to those people, but it is just like they just don't think the way that a lot of us have the opportunity to even think.
Yeah, a lot of our workshops or events we talk about how real estate has grown to something that we never imagined could grow to this early in our lives.
Yeah.
But we choose to work because we want to now, not because we have to.
Yeah.
Because we have enough passive income from our real estate that I could just walk away and retire and live off of it now. Now I can really truly choose to do with my time what gives me the most satisfaction.
Love
and
it.
it's a great place to be.
Okay, so last take. This is a Jason and Sam off camera, no, just our opinion, because I don't know what my opinion is, but I'm curious. Obviously studying, looking at markets on a consistent, I'm sure you look at the MLS more than once a day.
Absolutely.
I was going to say.
Pulled it up on my phone right now.
I was going to say, I was like, people like you. I'm assuming that's pretty common. It's like our dashboards on our sales stats. It's
That's
like,
right.
oh, are we winning?
Yeah.
Take on the market. I'm curious. What's your opinion on where you see overall real estate market in America or Utah or future, kind of your opinion on it? I'm curious.
Okay, this is Jason Harris doctrine only,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So,
Coming from just you, yeah.
yeah, so the Fed's made it clear they want to raise interest rates, right? So that makes it harder to borrow. It makes it more difficult to cash flow. We have a short supply here in Utah County and Salt Lake County. Part of that's from the 08-09 housing market crash. And what happened there is all construction companies stopped building, yet the population of Utah continued to grow. And so we're behind now where there's more people than there are places to live, which is creating this great appreciation surge that we've seen. But what happens is eventually wage growth isn't going to keep pace with the rate of interest
keep up
rates
to afford
where
it.
people can afford the higher prices unless more people are coming to Utah who are used to a higher wage. And so it's just my belief that Silicon Slopes is bringing in a lot of great tech jobs where people are making a lot of money. And so it's pricing lower income people out of the market, but there's others coming from Washington and California or other places that are used to a much more expensive market than that of ours, and that can continue to push this market higher. And so I'm not concerned right now about a bubble. Lending policies and practices are still very difficult to get a loan. If you've tried to get a loan recently, it's not like in 2006, 2007, stated income loans, no verification, tell us how much you need to make and we'll give it to you.
Do you think that strengthens the rental market then here in Utah? Because it's going to be, it's like, crap, I can't go get a loan for $500,000 to get into a house I need. So therefore I'm going to rent. Does that, I mean, or is that, am I dumb by saying that?
No. So an interesting survey actually came out that says more and more millennials choose to rent than choose to buy, which I think is fantastic for me as a landlord, right? I love it.
Keep renting, people.
So right now, I think 53% choose to rent and 47% choose to buy, and that number is growing further apart. And so,
but it makes it easy if you want to pick up and go to Bali one day. I mean, it seems like a fun life.
Yeah,
I mean,
you had a good time with that.
That's great.
But really, Sam, I think more and more millennials don't want to be tied down by anything.
Yeah.
And because they job hop and are looking for the best career opportunity, they often don't want to plant their roots too soon. And so it's been a good thing for real estate investing when you're a landlord to own property, because there's a high demand right now. And I will just add, just because it's local, Qualtrics being bought out and getting $8 billion or $8.6 billion coming in to the hands of residents of Utah County. I think that type of money could have an impact too. That's just speculation perhaps on my part, but I absolutely think there's some really good things happening in Utah County.
Yeah, no, there's some massive growth over in Vineyard and Lehigh and Saratoga and Eagle. And I mean, I look at some of these developments going up, it's kind of like they haven't really been slowing down. It's not like they're pretty bullish in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
They seem to know what they're doing. So I'm kind of like, follow what the big dudes are doing.
Yeah. Nationally, things have slowed and they're starting to scale back some, but I think Utah specifically is doing really well right now.
Cool. Well, any other last minute advice for the tribe? I mean, for the audience, I guess. I mean, do you have any other tips, tricks, advice before we wrap this up? I
have sat down with 100 of my friends over the years to recommend these same things, and only two of them, three of them maybe, have actually taken action and done something. I highly recommend people take action. Learn, pick up a book, come to the seminars, come to any type of event that's going to teach you more about it. Just get started and don't sit on the sidelines for too long.
Yeah, that's why I said. That's why I'm like, we're going to give the perfect nuggets. We just gave you a roadmap of like how amazing you can simply just get into real estate. And guess what? Most of you guys are going to be like, yeah, I want to get into real estate one day.
Yeah.
And 3 years later, I want to get into real estate one day. I just go do it. Like I told him, I was like, hey, at your booth, you should have a little catalog of houses and say, we'll get you under contract today with this one.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Choose which one you want.
Choose which one you want. I will have you under contract tomorrow and let's get you started. Like I was like, you got to give them almost like a turnkey, just like here. And I was like, that's my recommendation. And if you guys trust it and just go with it, I mean, it's like imperfect action is better than perfect inaction.
Yeah.
And I heard that quote the other day and I was like, there you go. Yeah. It's like, maybe you messed up. Maybe you lost a little on your first. I don't know. It's right now, in my opinion, if you know that it will at least pay off the mortgage every month or potentially cash flow, hey, it's an asset. You own it.
I'll crunch the numbers for you beforehand. Exactly. Make sure it's a good deal.
Yeah, love it. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're excited to have you in January. And if you guys got something out of this or you felt impressed, you can contact Jason or like this, share this with some friends, tag somebody in this that's like talked about real estate at one point. And I told Preston I'd answer his one question. Can you buy a home? Sorry, this totally just told him I'd answer it. Can you buy a home, rent, like owner occupied, but technically not owner occupy it?
So the correct answer for that is obviously
legally,
yes, you need to owner occupy it. When you sign those loan documents, you're stating that your intention is to live there for a year.
Okay.
What happens after that point in your life? Job change, other things that perhaps can happen in life, they can't obviously come back on you on that. And so your intention needs to be that you're going to live there a year or more.
But if something came up that you could justify why you had to leave and you could prove that,
yes,
it could change that rule.
If something came up, a job change moves you somewhere,
something like
perhaps you get married or something and you need something bigger, whatever it may be.
Cool.
Yes.
I just know I get hit up with questions all the time, and I'm like, I don't know. So
Yeah.
I had to ask for president. So
And I'm not necessarily the professional that knows that, so maybe ask your loan officer or
cool.
your real estate professional you choose to work with.
Cool. Okay. Thank you so
Hey,
much.
thanks,
Jason.
Sam. Yeah, appreciate
Hey,
it.
We'll see you guys.